Nobody sets out to build a bad hiring process. And in truth, hiring processes aren't even usually built. They're inherited, one compromise at a time. No fleet wakes up one morning and just says, hey, let's make candidates wait 3 days for a callback. Nobody says, let's bury our recruiters in paperwork, or let's make communication as slow and frustrating as possible. And yet, those things happen every single day. So how does it happen? How do so many fleets, good fleets, end up in exactly the same predicament? Well, when it comes down to it, I think the answer is actually pretty simple. Drift. Every organization starts out with the best of intentions. You want to build a recruiting process that makes sense and works. So you establish goals, you define expectations. But then, things start to happen. Little things.
Big things have small beginnings.
A shortcut here, an exception there, a step skipped every now and again because everyone's busy. None of those changes seem like a big deal on their own, but over time, they start adding up. And eventually, you're running a hiring process that you never even intended to build. And here's the really dangerous part. Those little compromises don't create major problems overnight, because if they did, you'd notice. No. They create small inefficiencies, minor frustrations, tiny delays. But over time, together, they equal big problems. And eventually, you stop questioning any of it. It's just, well, that's how we do it. It's true in business. It's true in recruiting. Heck, it's true in life. And that's exactly what our team started talking about as we prepared this month's research and download. But instead of asking, what's the biggest mistake fleets make, we asked a different question. What recruiting mistakes have become so common that many fleets no longer even recognize them as mistakes? And that conversation led us in a really interesting direction. And it's going to be the focus of this month's download, the 7 deadly sins of driver recruiting.
Sinner.
And it will also be the topic of discussion in this month's live Digging Deeper chat. They'll get into the mistakes or sins and dig into the data surrounding it. What kind of information can you expect us to cover with these sins? Well, I don't really want to steal all their thunder and get too deep into it, but for example, sin number 1, sloth. You can't drag your feet getting back to drivers. It's crucial that when they show interest, you engage with them. Why? Over 65% of drivers land a new job in under a month when they start looking. Or sin number 2, greed. For this one, we're talking about cost-cutting measures that end up costing you in the end. Like scaling back spend on your orientations a little too much.
Was that wrong?
Trying to save money by making drivers share a common room instead of giving them their own. Let's just say subpar food or just an overall uncomfortable venue for orientation can all come back to haunt you. Orientation is the first real face-to-face interaction these drivers will have with you and your fleet. So if you come up short here, it's a hard first impression to overcome. And 83% of surveyed drivers report having walked away from a job when they felt let down by an orientation.
That's it! I quit!
But that's it for the actual sins for now. You can get more detail in the Digging Deeper episode and in the download itself. But here's the interesting thing. None of these problems or sins begin with bad intentions. Maybe you're not calling back immediately because your recruiters are just overwhelmed or just don't have the right systems in place. Or perhaps just trimming some of that budget out of orientation, well, that just seems like a smart way to save a little money on the bottom line. Seems like a perfectly reasonable business decision, right? But all those little decisions, well, they add up. Before we wrap it up today, I want to leave you with one question. And I'd encourage you to take a few minutes this week, take a step back and look at your own processes with a fresh perspective and just ask yourself, what's that one compromise that you've inherited that nobody's even questioned in years? Because remember, bad processes, they're not built, they're inherited. One compromise at a time. Mull it over a bit. And if you'd like to continue the conversation and share what conclusion you come to, leave it in the comments and let me know. Or even better, join us for this month's Digging Deeper. As I said, Dave and the panel will be unpacking these ideas even more. Link below. I'll be back next month with another recruiting roundup. Until then, thanks for watching.